And the recording is live. All right, everyone, welcome to Chemistry 300. My name is Supreet Prasad. I will be your instructor for this semester. The name of the course is Chem 300. You should all have a syllabus in front of you. Last chance to tell me if you don't have a syllabus in front of you. All right, so first and foremost, like I said, my name is Supreet Prasad. My name and my email are up on the projector, prasads2@crc.losrios.edu. My office hours are Mondays and Wednesdays, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Office hours start week 2, so next week. And my office hours are held remotely via Zoom. All right. The reason for that is that I'm an adjunct instructor here on CRC, so I do not have an official office on campus. This is all to say that I consider myself very accessible and approachable. If the office hours don't work for you, feel free to just contact me and we can set up an appointment. Lecture, of course, this is our lecture room for the entirety of the semester. We will meet Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11:30 p.m. to 12:50 p.m., so about an hour and 20 minutes. Our labs are on Fridays. Now, when you enrolled in the class, you enrolled in a lab and you automatically enrolled in lecture. So when we go over today's attendance, I want you all to be sure which lab you're enrolled in. There is an 8:30 a.m. lab. There is a 12:30 p.m. lab. If you are unsure which lab section you're enrolled in, don't worry. When I go over the attendance, we'll go morning versus afternoon and confirm attendance. Speaking about that, when it comes to the attendance, if you know someone who should be in this classroom that isn't in this classroom, contact them and tell them to come ASAP, because no shows are dropped from the class, no questions asked, if they do not show up to class this week. That includes both today's lecture, Thursday's lecture, and Friday's lab. In other words, to maintain your enrollment in this class, you must attend the first week in full. This also applies to those of you on the wait list. Now, when I go through attendance, if there are any no-shows, we can start giving out permission slips to the waitlisted students as early as today. But we give everyone the entirety of the week before they're dropped from the course entirely. Ideally, by Thursday evening, the enrollment is sort of taken care of. Just to go over the course description, it's up here on the projector. Your choice if you want to look on the left or the right. This course covers an introduction to fundamental chemical concepts, problem solving, and laboratory skills. Chem 300 is designed for students needing a comprehensive review of or intensive preparation in chemistry. This course is primarily intended to prepare students for Chem 400, and it is transferable to both the UCs and CSUs. The prerequisite for this class is elementary algebra or higher with a C or better, or eligibility for transfer level mathematics. This class does involve a lot of math. So we're going to spend some time on the very beginning about the basics of math and the arithmetic required of you, because there will come a point where the math catches up really, really quickly. The materials for this class are written right here. We have a scientific calculator. I do recommend a TI-84 or something similar to that. To be absolutely specific, really the type of calculator I'm looking for is one that has a big screen. The simple reason for the big screen is that I can see exactly what you entered. So if there is a mistake, I can correct what you've entered. For those single screen calculators, the information disappears. So if it'd be difficult for us to find out exactly where you went wrong. The other materials required of you are the Chemistry 300 Lab Manual. These will be provided to you on a weekly basis as worksheets at the start of lab. In other words, I will print the relevant pages from the lab manual and I will bring it to lab for you. All right. Next up is safety goggles. Safety goggles are required for the labs in this semester. You have a couple options for purchasing goggles. Number one, you can go to the bookstore, and the bookstore will have the verified goggles that is appropriate for the class. On the Canvas page, under lab, I do have a link here for recommended safety goggles. It's an Amazon link. You can, of course, purchase it from Amazon or other retailers such as Home Depot or Lowe's. Really, the big thing is that we want a lot of eye protection. It's not just glasses that covers your eye head on, but covers the sides as well. That's really the big part. You can see this one on Amazon is currently around $13. The good thing about the goggles is that if you continue in chemistry, you can continue using the goggles. Lab coats are not required, but they are recommended. If you would like to purchase a lab coat, I also have a link on Canvas for that recommended lab coat. You can purchase one off of Amazon or any other retailer. This one right here is a unisex lab coat. It's white. I'm not too picky on the color. There's black, there's pink, and there's blue. I do recommend, though, if you are going to purchase a lab coat, purchase one size up. It tends to shrink in the wash, and it's better to just buy a bigger size than needed. But again, lab coats are not required. They are recommended. The big benefit of lab coats, of course, is clothing and attire. As we get closer to your first day of a wet lab, we will talk about the appropriate lab attire. Pretty much the lab attire can be described as covering up your skin as much as possible. We're not going to do open-toed shoes. We're not going to do shorts. We're not going to do short sleeves. If you have long hair, it is recommended you tie it up into a bun. If for whatever reason you aren't dressed appropriately, number one, I will ask you to go home and change. Number two, if you buy the coat, then that covers up a lot of your body that even if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt, you can just put the coat on over it. All right. So this is all again to say that when it comes to lab safety, attire is very important. This Friday's lab is designated for safety. So we'll be going over a lot of safety about lab this Friday. All right, the textbook is called the OpenStax Chemistry Textbook. This is an open educational resource. This means that it is available to you as a PDF on Canvas. Just to show you where that is, it's under the General tab. Whoops. It's under the General tab right here that says OpenStax Chemistry 2E. This is a textbook that we will be using for this class. Now, generally speaking, the way how I teach my class is that you do not need to actively keep up with the textbook. In other words, I use the textbook to guide my lectures, but depending on the topic at hand, I don't cover the entire chapter. So for example, in the OpenStax Chemistry textbook, you'll see, for example, just picking one at random, chapter 2, it goes up to 2.7. For example, we would only really cover 2.3 to 2.7. So this is all to say that while you are encouraged to use the textbook to keep up with the class and your readings, it is not absolutely required because I teach you everything that you need to know to do well in this course. All right, the student learning objectives as per the course catalog. Not going to read the entire thing, just what's in bold. Number 1, understand and explain fundamental chemical concepts. Number 2, solve chemistry problems. Number 3, effectively communicate chemistry concepts. Number 4, demonstrate safe laboratory practices. And number 5, demonstrate the understanding of scientific ethics and academic integrity. I did have a situation last semester where a student did cheat on an exam, and it was a tough situation to deal with. I would hate to have to deal with it again this semester. All right. Is there anyone who just entered who does not have a syllabus? Raise your hands up so I can see you. 3 in the back, looks like. 1. And there's 2 people behind you. Okay. Now, this page right here, the course schedule, will be our gospel for the entirety of this course. On a regular basis, at least on a class basis, I do expect you to check the course schedule to understand exactly what we'll be going over on a regular basis. You'll notice that the schedule is noted on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, right? And the dates on the far left column. Of course, what we're doing today is an overview of the course as well as the syllabus. And then on Thursday, we're going to hit the ground running with our lecture material with measurements. Again, here you can see the numbers, the 1.1 to 1.6. These are the relevant chapter readings from the textbook. It's not required that you read ahead of the class. I put them here so that after I've taught the material, if you need additional help or context, you can, of course, feel free to refer to the textbook. My promise to you is that you will only ever be tested on what's covered in lecture only, right? That means that sometimes when you go through the textbook, you'll probably notice there are a couple things that we went deeper on in class. You'll also notice there are things that the textbook does deeper than. We will only test you on what's covered in lecture only. And then on Fridays is our lab days. You'll notice almost immediately, all of you have a color printed schedule. There's different colors here. We have green and orange. I want you all to understand what that means right now. Green means dry lab, D-R-Y. Green means dry lab. A dry lab is one in which no chemicals are involved. You will simply come to lab. We will either have a workshop or worksheet in mind for you. This Friday, we're going to go over safety. We're going to watch a couple safety videos. We're going to learn the layout of the lab space. We're not conducting experiments this week. But next Friday, experiment 1 measurements, we will have a wet lab. By this time, you should have your lab goggles. So dry labs do not require chemicals. You will just come as normal. It'll be a worksheet or a workshop, aka just come with your pen, pencil, calculator, and we'll get some work done. These lab times are really great opportunities for us to practice a lot of the topics. Orange cells are wet labs. Wet labs refer to when chemicals are used. It is during these wet labs you are expected to come to class in the appropriate attire and, of course, expected to conduct yourself professionally. It is on orange days where if you are improperly dressed, I will send you home to change. On green days, since we're not working with chemicals, it isn't as big a deal to me if you come in shorts, for example. All right. But there are a couple of rules that we do have to follow. Number 1, no open-toed shoes in lab, regardless of wet or dry, and no food or drink in lab, regardless of wet or dry lab. Right. So the green, orange really only matters with your general attire. I'll say it once again. Green means that you can dress comfortably. We're not working with chemicals. Orange means you must dress appropriately for the lab. Okay. The schedule also details a couple other big things. Of course, one of the first things here is our exams. We have in total 4 module exams. These are our midterms. Throughout the semester, we do have a couple holidays, but that's, of course, towards the end. On November 11th, I believe it's Veterans Day. We have Thanksgiving. And then on December 12th, no lab meeting. That's, of course, because that's the first day of finals. What else here do I need to mention? Yes. The course moves at a pretty brisk pace. The first 2 or 3 weeks will probably be a little slow, but after that 4th week, it's going to pick up and it's going to pick up fast. We're going to go through at least a chapter a day. That means that in a single week, we'll be going through 2 chapters at minimum. One of the reasons why we have these green labs right here, those workshops, is, for example, to give us immediate practice. Take, for example, this day right here that we cover kinetics. Truth be told, we won't have time in lecture to do practice questions. It'll take me about an hour and 15 minutes to get through the content. But fortunately, on the next Friday, you'll have the opportunity to practice questions. All right. Now, I know that right now the workshop may be a little confusing as to what that entails. Just when the time comes for it, we're going to talk through it and you're going to understand a lot better. It's one of those things that once you do it in practice, it makes a lot of sense. I want to get this pointed out to everyone. Our final exam is already scheduled by the college. It is Thursday, December 18th, 10:15 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. This date cannot be rescheduled. You cannot drop the final. You cannot reschedule the final. You have to take the final to pass the class. If you do not take the final, one of two things will happen. If you don't take the final and you're already passing, you get assigned an incomplete. If you don't take the final and you are failing the class, then that's an automatic fail. So in other words, the incomplete is usually only given to students that did not take the final for emergency reason, for example, a death in the family or illness. And when it comes to an incomplete, if that happens to you, we'll talk about what the next steps are. The last 2 weeks of the class is designated to our group presentations titled Chemistry in Our World presentations. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer to the time. What else do I want to mention here? Okay, nothing there. Lectures are conducted in person and are recorded as the way that you see here today. I do use my iPad to teach. There isn't a podium at the front here, so most likely what's going to happen is come Thursday, I'll be sitting in the crowd with you teaching from my iPad. I do also record the iPad lectures. Sometimes I forget, so please don't, if I do, please just remind me, hey, Supreet, you're not recording, and I'm more than happy to just come in here and click. And it is recording. I do see the recording to the top left corner, because of course, if the lecture isn't recorded, obviously that is a big deal for some of us. These recordings will be posted as unlisted YouTube links, and these YouTube links will be posted on Canvas. I use YouTube, of course, because a lot of people are a lot more comfortable using YouTube than they are something like Zoom. For most of us, you probably have the YouTube app on your phone. So getting access to these videos is incredibly easy and straightforward. You can skip, you can go back. YouTube will generate captions. There are a lot of nice, nifty features with the YouTube links. My big warning right here is that while these recordings serve as a supplement, they do not substitute for class attendance. I reserve the right to administer pop quizzes during lecture. I know that for some of us, hearing that there are recorded lectures means that you can miss a class and you'll be fine. But historically, it has been shown that students who consistently show up to class on average score higher than those who just rely on the lecture recordings. The simple reason for that is this class is inherently collaborative, it's interactive. I'll sometimes ask questions that demand a response. If a student has a question they're confused on, maybe other students are confused on that too. Being here in person offers you the ability to ask questions and get those questions answered immediately. Now, this last weekend, you were all sent an email through the CRC's enrollment service or whatever. From this point onward, all course communication will be sent via Canvas, any important stuff. However, we do have a Discord server. So here's what we're going to do right now, actually. I want everyone to take their phones out, and you are going to scan the QR code and you are going to join the Discord server. If you don't already have Discord, go ahead and download it. It's a very intuitive software. It's a very intuitive app. If you've ever used WhatsApp or iMessage or any sort of other group messaging tool, Discord is very, very easy. If you've never used it before, I recommend taking about 10 to 15 minutes to just learn the software. The QR code is here. Again, join the group. This link will be posted on Canvas if you aren't able to get to it today. All right. The big reason why I like the Discord is because it allows me to get information out there sooner rather than later. All right. Now, there's one thing I need you to know. I teach at both the Woodland campus as well as the Casumnes campus. So on Discord, you can see it right here. At the very top left corner, there is a campus selection. Once you enter the Discord, please click the cat emoji. The cat emoji rolls you in the Casumnes section, and you will immediately get access to the Casumnes relevant channels. Right now, of course, I'm the head of the channel, so I see both Woodland and Casumnes. But if you did everything right, you'll only see Casumnes and campus selection. Again, please join the Discord server as soon as possible and react that emoji. I see that we have 21 reacts so far. We have almost 60 students in this class, so we got to get those numbers up. The reason why the Discord server is so helpful, using Woodland as an example, I can answer questions immediately. I am pretty addicted to my phone. So if you shoot me a message on Discord, whether it be in the channel or a PM, chances are I'll respond within like 5-10 minutes, even if it's at Friday night, 11 p.m. There are a couple channels in each campus. Number one is the resources channel. This is where I will also post those YouTube links just as so. Again, this is the Woodland campus. Their semester started a few weeks ago. So just like this, I'll post lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3 on the YouTube links. So in addition to the Canvas page, you'll have the links on Discord. On the announcements channel, I reserve the right to send quick updates. Don't worry, all important announcements such as exams, labs, grades will be sent via Canvas. But I reserve the right to do the Discord for saying stuff like, hey, don't forget your calculators. Hey, don't forget to carry this handout. Hey, I'm running late. I'm stuck in traffic. Or you can take this example right here. My bottom comment, first wet lab of the semester, please come dressed appropriately. So the Discord allows me to get a lot of these quick messages out promptly to your phone. And of course, there is an Ask the Free channel where you're allowed to ask questions and get a response from me as soon as possible. Do we have any questions so far? Some new people came in. Do we need it? Who needs the syllabi? The code? Yeah. Raise your hands if you need a syllabus. Angie? There. Anyone else? I see a hand in front. Okay. Was it here? Who need? You need another syllabus. Okay, cool. That's fine with me. Okay. Just a little comment about messaging me. It says here, I welcome emails and messages of all types, and I strive to respond within 24 hours on weekdays and 72 hours on weekends and holidays. Please be specific when describing your questions or concerns. Like I mentioned, I am addicted to my phone, so my response time will be faster than that. But, just give me a while to respond, because like I said, I do work at 2 different campuses. Okay, that was a QR code. Grading. This is a big thing for a lot of people. Your grade consists of a couple different rubrics. Number one is 4 exams, 4 midterm exams, 4 module exams. Your lowest one is dropped. So your grade will be of 3 exams, right? And it's totally worth 45%. So each exam is worth around 15%. The reason why I do this dropped exam is number one, I don't allow makeup exams. I don't allow rescheduled exams. Of course, if you are DSPS, you schedule with DSPS as appropriate. But this allows students who may have an issue. Maybe you have illness, maybe you're out of town, maybe you just bombed an exam. By having that lowest score be dropped, it alleviates a lot of the stress for students. If you miss an exam, you will be given a 0, and that will be presumably your lowest score and dropped, right? So 4 exams, your lowest of which is dropped. Then you will have a final exam. That's worth 20% of your grade. It is cumulative. Now, when it comes to the nature of cumulative exams, it's always a bit confusing to explain to students how STEM subjects can be cumulative. The best example I can use is I can tell you, think about if this class were an English language class, maybe the first couple of weeks we'd learn the alphabet. Then we'd learn words. Then we'd learn sentences. By the time the final comes around, you'd be asked to write an essay. But in the same way, to write an essay, you have to understand the alphabet. You have to understand words. That's how this course is cumulative. The material builds on itself. We'll be talking about the periodic table within a couple of weeks. That will be coming back through and through again throughout the semester. You will also have your group presentation. Those group presentations are in the last 2 weeks of the semester. I'll talk a little bit more about what that assignment looks like, but just now know it is worth around 20% of your score. Next up is lab. Lab is worth 10% of your score. So that's that Friday, right? I told you that I would print and carry those worksheets for you. Those worksheets will be submitted to me and they will be graded. Failure to complete a worksheet means you will get a 0. And then finally, attendance. Now, I mentioned earlier that because of the recorded lectures, some people tend to take advantage of this and skip classes because they think they can just rely on the recordings. The attendance is your first incentive to come to class, right? It's worth 5% of your score. So for a lot of people, it's a difference between an A and a B, or a failing grade and a C, right? Number 2, The other reason why you should attend class in person is because the extra credit questions I give on exams are based on random trivia that I talk about in class. Like I'll just randomly talk about maybe some analogy, some real world phenomenon. That's the kind of thing you would expect on an exam for the extra credit. You'll notice, number one, there is no homework. I do not do homework. I personally don't think it's as instructive to your learning as the in-class assignments, those worksheets, right? So no homework is required of this class. Very rarely will you be asked to work on something outside of class or lab that isn't your group presentation. Under the guise, oh wait, no, that's not it yet. Extra credit opportunities will be offered throughout the term. Academic dishonesty, including cheating or plagiarism, will result in automatic assignment failure and possible course dismissal. Pretty much all assignments will be submitted electronically through Canvas. Late submissions will incur a 1% penalty per hour, and students requiring accommodation should contact me directly. Exams, we talked about this a little bit. 4 module exams will be given. The lowest score will be dropped. Missed exams receive 0 credit with no makeups. The final exam is scheduled for Thursday, December 18th, 10:15 to 12:15, and cannot be dropped. Do we have any questions before I move on? Okay. Next up is the Chemistry in Our World group presentations. During the final 2 weeks of the semester, students will present real-world applications of chemistry through group presentations. We're looking at no more than 5 students in a group. Each 15 to 20-minute presentation must demonstrate how chemical principles explain everyday phenomena. Groups will select from provided topics. The presentation should include an explanation of the phenomenon, as well as underlying chemical principles, clearly connecting the course to practical applications. What does that mean? One of the topics is, how does rusting work? You will present to us a real world case of rusting. You will connect it back to topics that we covered in class. Reduction, oxidation, for example. Now, the group presentation assignment has topics that are varied. I did want to show you just a couple of them so you can start gauging your interest. Number 1, you can talk about the science of baking. Number 2, forensic chemistry. Number 4, biomimicry. Number 5, molecular gastronomy. Number 6, the alchemy of brewing. Explain how chemical reactions are involved in beer and wine making. Environmental chemistry, tie-dyeing chemistry, sports science, and one of my favorites, antacids and upset stomach. There are 10 topics for you to choose from. We have around 50 to 60 students in this class. Everyone should be able to get a topic. All right. You're going to find your own group members. Traditionally, the same people you work with in lab ends up being your group for the presentation, but you're allowed to pick whoever you want. If you don't pick a group, I will automatically assign you to a group with other people, and I will communicate that to you. John Doe, Jane Doe, you're in the group together. You're working on number 11. So don't worry if you can't find a group, because you will be assigned at some point. This document is already on Canvas. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's still far a ways away. But the one thing I wanted to point out is that October 7th is the deadline to pick your group and your topic. Today is September 1st is on Monday. So that's a little over a month from now. Hopefully by a month from now, you'll learn who your classmates are. You'll develop your friendships and understand, yeah, I want to work with Jane or John Doe. Okay. This document is already on Canvas for those who want to peruse it. And eventually I will publish sample presentations from previous semesters. All right, that's a group presentation. So we have any questions on the group presentations? Yes.
Can multiple groups in the same?
I would like to avoid that if possible. If it comes to a situation where we have to do that, I'll work with it, but I'd like to avoid it if possible.
So So
So I think the best way to answer that is to actually show you a sample presentation. I have a particular one in mind. So this group did the science of baking, the chemistry of baking. In it, they of course defined baking, how it works, what ingredients are, and all that stuff. And they specifically related it back to, where is it? Particular chemical concepts that we covered in class. So this, for example, right here is known as the Maillard reaction. This was just an example of something we covered in class. They were able to say, within baking, we use this reaction specifically. So a lot of these topics are meant to be a little bit, real world based, and you're supposed to link it to topics that we covered in class. For example, right here, the students talked about the difference between baking soda and baking powder. They talked about acidity, pH and POH, and that's something that we do talk about in class. This particular group, I enjoyed theirs. They actually made a YouTube video of them making the cake. And in the YouTube video, they did like a TikTok style editing where they talked us through the ingredients, the ratios, and how it relates to the chemistry principles that we covered in class. As of right now, I know it may sound a little up in the air, abstract, but as we start talking about topics, you'll start seeing, okay, I see how this relates to particular topics. Okay. Any other questions on this? Or did that answer your question? Great. All right. Lab, all right, we talked a little bit about this. Lab includes both handwritten exercises, aka dry labs, as well as chemical labs, aka wet labs. Worksheets will be provided at the start of a lab. Students are allowed to work in groups. In fact, you're kind of expected to work in groups, but everyone must submit their own worksheet. Of course, this means if you're in a group, all of you in the group will have the same answers because you're going to work together. That's fine. That's the point of the class, is collaborative problem solving, but each person will upload their own worksheet. All right. Safety goggles are required. Lab coats are recommended. Please pay attention to what's in red. Missing 3 or more lab meetings results in an automatic failure of the course. Missing also includes excused absences. But again, I will say missing 3 or more labs fails the lab portion, which automatically fails the lecture portion as well. In other words, we cannot allow you to advance if you don't pass the lab. Attendance. Now, attendance is mandatory, and this will probably be new for a lot of you because I don't think many professors do it this way. Attendance will be documented via photo submission to Canvas. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your phones out right now. You're either going to take a picture of yourself in the classroom. You're going to take a picture of me at the board. You can take a picture of the projector or the handout in front of you, and you are going to upload it to Canvas. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Get out your phones, take that picture. It should either be, take out your phone, you're either going to take a selfie, take a picture of the projector, take a picture of your notes, whichever. It just needs to prove you were here. And you're going to upload it to Canvas. The Canvas assignment that you're going to upload it to is marked under attendance. Today is August 26th. You're going to upload the picture to Canvas. All right, the instructions are right down here. You can see it says you can take pictures of your notes, the classwork, ongoing lecture or lab, yourself in the classroom. You are allowed to upload this picture by the end of the day. For example, for Tuesday today, you have until 11:59 tonight to upload. If you submit a day late, you will be marked absent. I will not manually remind you to submit your attendance. It is every student's responsibility to submit their attendance. Again, you're going to take a selfie, or you're going to take a picture of your notes, or you're going to take a picture of me or the projector proving that you are in class. All right. Do we have any questions on that? Okay. That is attendance. Photos must be submitted electronically to modules to the date during official class time. Submissions after 11:59 p.m. will be marked absent. So the class is from 11:30 to 12:50. Let's say you forget and at 3 p.m. you're like, oh crap, I forgot to upload my picture. No problem. Upload your picture. You should have that day's notes or material in front of you. But if you upload Tuesday's attendance on Wednesday, that's marked absent. Tips. Put pencil to paper on every problem covered. Take notes in class and put asterisks beside important points and materials you don't understand. The biggest lie students tell themselves, including myself, is I don't need to write this down. I will remember it for later. Guess what happens when later comes? You don't remember. Right. So when you're studying, when you're in class, make notes, put asterisks, make it clear, I'm confused on this. So you can come to me in my office hours and say, Supreet, on Tuesday's class, you were talking about measurements. I was confused. Where is it? Oh, right here. I was confused on why you said this. Okay, yeah, no problem. We can talk about that. No problem. Help me help you. I consider myself very technologically accessible. I consider myself very approachable. I have in semesters past, students have literally sent me a message on Discord, Saturday, 2 p.m. Supreet, I'm confused on this question from the exam. Can you help me out? And I'll say, hey, you want to hop on a Zoom call? Let's do it right now. Let's get through it. It takes me 10, 15 minutes. I do this because I don't have an office on the main campus or over here. I pride myself on being accessible and approachable to help you in every way you can. And this goes back to the big promise. If a topic is not discussed in lecture, it will not appear on exams. So this mostly applies to the lab setting. The labs are standardized over the entire department, meaning every section of Chemistry 300 does the same set of labs. Maybe the only difference is dates, right? So I will not test you on lab material. I will only test you on lecture material. If you're attempting to solve a problem or you get stuck and confused, make a note of it. And then finally, the two things. Oh, that says WCC. CRC maintains a zero tolerance policy towards hate, bias, and discrimination. Such incidents disrupt education and compromise our learning environment. Violations will result in immediate removal from the class. Regarding the COVID-19 policy, masks are still recommended, but they remain optional. If you are feeling sick, please do not come to class. This is one of the benefits of those recorded lectures. If you are legitimately sick, right, this is why the recorded lectures exist. Speaking of illness, a COVID-19 positive test is the only exception I will make for possibly rescheduling or allowing an exam makeup or other accommodations. In other words, if you're missing an exam, unless you have a COVID positive test, do not assume arrangements will be made for you to accommodate you. All right. If you're missing it because you're just generally sick, that's fine. That's one of the reasons why we have the dropped policy. Does anyone have any questions? That's pretty much the class as a whole. We've covered the syllabus. We've covered what my general expectations of you are. We're not going to cover we're not going to start new material today. So this is the time for you to ask questions on structure of the class or anything else. Yes. You're going to take a picture on your phone and then you're going to go to the Canvas app, and on the Canvas app, it'll say upload or submit. If it doesn't say that, then I'll check on what it looks like on my end. Let me see this. Due date, submission type. I don't want to, it's not showing the picture. Then I will need to check it on my computer when I get it. So someone was able to submit their picture. So we can work on your phone to see what the issue is afterwards. Yes. No, because Canvas auto grades the attendance. So if you submit in the comments, Canvas won't recognize it as a submission. So it will grade you 0. Any other questions? I think I saw a couple hands. Yeah. Very good. That's a fantastic question. So number one, to answer that, I will recognize the hypocrisy because I use my tablet. So here's what I'll say to that. Your exams will be in person on paper. One of the best skills you can have is muscle memory. I cannot tell you how many students I primarily use their tablet, come to the day of the exam, they're all of a sudden stuck because they're like, wait, I'm used to having that erase function, that square option, that highlight function. So I will say broadly, I do recommend taking paper notes. That being said, I do know students that are able to manage. They'll write notes on their tablet and they'll practice on paper and all that stuff, right? But again, I'll say that your exams are in person on paper. Get used to taking them in that way, right? This will become most appropriate when we're starting to do our math heavy topics or our drawing heavy topics. Obviously, for the drawing, it should be obvious drawing on tablet will not be the same as drawing on a paper. Good question. Anything else? You got this from the bookstore? So from Mesa, yeah. These goggles work. Mesa, yeah. These goggles also work. Remember, the big thing is that they cover the eyes and they cover the side. These work. Thank you very much for checking. If you'd like to check with me which goggles you're buying are good to go with me, like I said, just shoot me a message on Discord, email me. I'll quickly respond saying, yeah, that works. No, it doesn't work. Right? I'd rather you save money and purchase something that would work instead of wasting your money and having to return stuff. Any other questions? Yes. I allow all calculators. I don't want to say this because I feel like I'll be jinxing it, but the way how I structure my exams, it's kind of really difficult to cheat. Just the way how I organize my questions and my wording. So students using graphing calculators are fine with me. You get a reference sheet with formulae and equations. So it's not like you can store anything in there and it really help you. But that any calculator is okay with me. For this class, though, I recommend the screen be big. Right? Let me show you what I mean by is not a good calculator. Single screen, whoops, spelled that wrong. Calculator. This. I have seen a student carry this to an exam and they're screwed. This type of calculator is the worst type of calculator for a STEM class because number one, it's missing a lot of the functions that we would use, such as exponents, logarithmic functions, and ln. Number two, because of how limited that single screen is, if you make a mistake in what you're typing, you're not going to know you made a mistake until at the very end. So I do recommend calculators that have at least two, a bigger screen so you can see things on it. I know a TI-84 is expensive. You don't necessarily need to have a TI-84, but it just needs to be a fairly big screen. Let me see if I can find one. Big screen calculator. TI-84. Yeah, like these on the very first couple rows, I don't really like them. I don't think they're very helpful. These are the worst kinds of calculators I think you can carry for this class. What about scientific? Would that help? I said scientific screen. Oh, well, this one also here works because the idea is the same. You're able to see what you've typed in as well as the answers. So you're able to recognize if you made a mistake. Any other questions? Okay, so don't leave, but that's it for today's lecture. Now we're going to take care of the attendance when it comes to enrollment issues. All right, so the one thing I'm going to do right now